Welcome to Preserving Your Wealth with Mike McCormick, where we talk about smart ways to invest and preserve your money. Mike is a registered investment advisor with McCormick Financial Advisors in Bozeman, Montana. As an independent fiduciary, Mike does not receive commissions from any of the products or investments mentioned on this program. Consult a professional before making any investment decision. You can find old shows archived at McCormickFinancialadvisors.com. Learn, participate, interact.
6 minutes after the hour of 7 a.m. It's Thursday, April 2nd, 2020, 12 degrees outside. KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane, brought to you by the Club Tavern and Grill. And, hey, the special for tomorrow is fish and chips. Get your order in by 8 o'clock tonight, and you can pick those up tomorrow between 4 and 8, and they are delicious. They've got great fish and chips. You can give them a call at 556-6212. or go online to theclubtavernandgrill.com. You can order online. You can order by Facebook. You can email from their page and get fish and chips because they are delicious. And Mike McCormick joins us by phone. He's sharper. He's so sharp we can't let him play with balloons. Mike?
Oh my goodness!
How you doing, man?
Thank you, Tom. I'm doing very well. I'm weathering the lockdown well with my family, and really honestly feel very much blessed to be in this country, to be blessed to be in Montana at this time, and and really to have kids that are. I've got 2 teenage girls that otherwise might not be as interested in hanging out with Dad. So it's government-mandated family time right now.
I would think. Well, you're essential personnel, aren't you? Aren't financial people? You can work from home, obviously, but you're still allowed to work, are you not? I mean, you're still working.
That's a great question, Tom. And when I have, I was picking up my stuff the other week at the office, and it was sort of one of those things wondering, there are things that I do that I think are deemed essential, but I don't need to be in the office to do them. And so it came down to, I just recognized that I was being selfish by going into the office and having the opportunity to, I justified it like, I need to be in my space and my uniform to give my clients my best. And the reality is that I can do this from home, and I can do my part to help the community as best that I possibly can. My family's all healthy, knock on wood, but gosh, just like everybody out there, you have a tickle in your nose or a moment where you lost your footing or something like that, and you say, gosh, how do you ever feel comfortable again, knowing that this invisible, poison is here, and we know people that have had it and recovered, and we know one person, the first person in Gallatin County that was admitted in the hospital was a friend of ours, and through circuitous, mapping, you're like, well, maybe we could be in trouble, and of course now we're clear, but we've been through it, and I mentioned to Shane I was listening to you guys before the break, and I appreciate what he put out there, which was, how is he coping with it, and he's using his faith, and I think that it's an interesting story that we have on how everybody is dealing with it, because I find it comes in waves. I find there's moments where I feel lucky and very optimistic, and then there's moments where I empathize with people that are not as lucky and where they are, and realize that could happen to. I've got 5 octogenarians in my family. I've got families scattered throughout the world. If you look at the predictions and the numbers, statistically, I'm going to know somebody who passes from COVID-19, and I'm not excited about that. I'm frustrated at being here still. I'm frustrated at still being on the front end of this curve. I can't wait until we're on the back end of this curve. And at the same time, I need to be good for my clients and have a real rational view as to how they should manage their money and manage their financial lives. So it's a challenge that's hitting everybody out there, and just continue to really appreciate the callers and supporters in the radio and keeping us honest out there. But I've got a few money ideas this hour, Tom, but there's nothing. It's one of those things where emotional stress and fear, they want us to be active. We have to do something about this, and yet there's not much to do. Even even the refund that's coming to you in the government. You don't have to do anything. It's just going to show up in your bank account. So therein lies some of the frustration, I think.
Well, Mighty Mike, we can assure you you're essential to our family here. Okay? You are the man.
Well, the other thing I should mention regarding the $1,200 check, Mike, I went to the IRS website the other night, and they are working for a portal for those who don't have direct deposit set up for the IRS. A lot of us get our refunds in the form of a manual check, and they are in the process of creating something. So the other thing that I want to point out is the IRS will never call you for your direct deposit information. They will not call you and ask you for your bank account numbers and things like that so they can send you the check faster. So please,
and thanks for saying that, Tom.
Yeah, do not fall for that. Yeah, they are not going to. Yeah, they're not going to call you.
Fraud is happening. Right
it really
now.
is.
And when there's fear like there is right now, and uncertainty that to beat the band, now's a perfect time to sit back. And yes, if you didn't file and get your direct deposit, there's things that you really do need to do. But hopefully you've got some things in order, and you can wait for the mail to show up. Every one of these programs the government's rolling out, there's no window closing on them, whether you're a business owner, whether you're unemployed. Certainly there's, get yourself registered along with the 6 million or so other people that did last week.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Let me take a moment and just point out some glass half full things, because I really am an optimist on this.
Go for it.
If you were to, I've got a chart in front of me that shows different things that you could own in your 401ks and how they've done for 1 year period. And if you just held bonds, if you just held a basket of bonds, corporate debt, in 12 months you'd be up 2.66%, and that does not include the interest that you would have received from that. If you would have just held this S&P 500, in 12 months you're down 10%. Now, in a 12-month period to be down 10%, that's not a great investment. we don't promote that kind of investing. However, you put it in context like that, and I find most of my clients, they sort of relax. They say, well, I knew that this stock market thing was not going to last, and I knew that there was going to be pullbacks. And now in the face of a global pandemic that could kill more people than our recent wars, that has completely stopped all of the global economy in most cases, that's a pretty benign, that's a flesh wound, if you ask me. I'm not saying it's not significant for people's earnings and savings, but you can breathe easier knowing that that so far the losses are sustainable for most people with any kind of long-term time frame. And if you were to own gold, you would have been up 23%. And what's the best investment that I have on my screen? Well, it's long-term government bonds. The TLT index is a popular one, and you're up 34%. If you would have held that. Most portfolios for the past year have been designed that instead of holding short-term bonds, you would have held government long-term bonds, and then still been exposed to stocks, which would not really preserve too much of your volatility. But, diversification does work. It's just harder to find these days.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, Mike. You're absolutely right, because the global situation right now, as we say, money's chicken. And as you well pointed out, the bond markets, both corporate and government in the U.S., are booming because it's the safest place to come, and particularly corporate America, because you're going to get that interest from good companies that have been around a long time, and they're not just paying interest on their bonds, but most of them are also paying a dividend on their stocks. So, fantastic silver lining. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah. I got to make a quick announcement, Mike. 73 Montana Air and National Guard have been activated by Montana State Governor Steve Bullock in response to COVID-19. The airmen will be used in 11 cities and 17 locations around Montana, And per the governor's directive, the guardsmen will be tasked to screen individuals arriving in Montana from other states and countries through our airports and train stations. The soldiers and airmen will be located in airports in Bozeman, Billings, Kalispell, Missoula, Helena, Great Falls, and Butte. And screening will include all arriving passengers at the airport terminals and most privately fixed base operations located in these major airports. They'll also be screening individuals entering Montana by train at stations in Whitefish, Havre, Shelby, and Wolf Point. And additionally, each location will have a Montana Guard liaison officer to work with local disaster and emergency services to make sure that we are all safe from people coming in from outside the state or from in-state flights. So just an FYI for that. We've got to take a short break, and we'll be back. We're talking with Mike McCormick. He's cooler than the other side of the pillow. We'll be right back with more with Mike right after this. Stay tuned. 19 minutes after the hour of 7 a.m., we're talking with Mike McCormick, McCormick Financial Advisors by phone. And Mike, thanks for being here this morning. We appreciate it very much, keeping us informed on the markets and everything. We're going to open here shortly. We're down 180 points right now, and Joe Biden is on the air. Oh, my God. Not sure what Joe's got to say, but I don't know.
In terms of the stock market, I do have to mention that last week's gains surprised me. Mm-hmm. The robustness, and I heard Shane mention volume, and I looked at the screens, and I looked at the volume, and I said, this actually looks like a pretty well functioning market, and we've got some opportunities for clients that wanted to get out of some things and not pay as much taxes. To do so. And so if you had a portfolio that you were lucky enough to be gifted some stock from a relative, you maybe had a position in something that you weren't that crazy about, and you wanted to sell it, but you didn't want to pay the taxes on it. Well, you could have sold it, and then you could have bought a fund that would have given you the same exposure. This week, we're going to be back into a heavy fear cycle. I do think we're going to go beyond our lows that we had 2 weeks ago. I think that the scale of this, the numbers that we're going to see are going to continue. Mm-hmm. So brace yourselves, and if you can't survive for a few more months without accessing your portfolio, I suggest that you get on the horn here pretty quick. It's going to be the big down day today again. I wouldn't be surprised if circuit breakers start tripping all over the place, and it's not until we see the rate of deaths decline, and you don't have to go back to your calculus. You just have to think about the shape of the curves, and that's going to be the trigger. And then Shane already mentioned, a V-shaped recovery. Boy, I think there's going to be some sectors that are going to do fantastic. And let me tell you what, Tom, the U.S. government, from what the Federal Reserve did, which is independent, has effectively backstopped the stock market.
Yeah, you're absolutely.
Last week was the week that the U.S. government said, we're never going to let the stock market go down for a sustained period of time. I think that there's some recklessness in it, but in the short term, what that means, people with portfolios swinging all over the place, here's two things you got to recognize. One, there is so much uncertainty. The price is dislocated. Consider it not liquid. Consider it as it's a funny price. It's not the real price. Nobody knows what the real price is, so you have to wait. You can be emotional about it if you want, but the best thing to do is say, the price on my statement for March is correct within 20% of the true value. We don't know. It's a fuzzy number. And the second thing you need to understand, the U.S. government is going to help you bring it right back. They've made that much clear. So there's no guarantees in life. You got to listen to my disclaimer before you do anything. But boy, the stock market finally got its day over real estate last week when evictions are now illegal, and the stock and the Fed's going to do whatever it takes to prop up the stock market.
And for context, listeners, what Mighty Mike referencing is the interview on CNBC by Reserve Chairman Powell the other day, and in this package, 2.2 trillion, 450 billion is going to the Federal Reserve, which they can leverage to 4.4 or 4.5 trillion. And I think what he basically told the market in that interview, and I'm just interpreting, I could be wrong, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Fed doesn't turn it. When the switch is turned on and we go to green, I wouldn't be surprised if the Fed didn't step in to your market like it has, in the past with the bonds and in 08, 09, and literally buy $500 billion worth of stock just to backstop it, right? I could see him doing that.
And they're already stepping into the corporate bond market.
Yeah, that's why I was just going to say that. Yeah, exactly.
They're already, it's imagining, okay, so you've got a giant grocery, not a grocery store. Let's go to any store that you think of that's totally a ghost town. And you are able to go in and buy something. And you're like, oh, this store is going to totally close. I got to get out of here. And then in walks Daddy Warbucks or anybody that you think that's just hemorrhaging money and it's exploding out of every pocket. And you're like, oh, no, this store is going to be fine. That's kind of what's happening. So the uncertainty and the fear are real. Be careful what you do with your money. Tom's points about fraud are probably the biggest risk out there right now. Anything you see on Facebook with somebody claiming that they have a solution for you, first off, shame for anybody trying to capitalize off this by advertising a solution. This is time for humanitarian actions, not for profit seeking. And then the other one is, I have been pushing real estate on this show and to my clients for a long time. And if you have rentals, you're sort of going to be expected to cut a break. And if nothing else, you won't be able to evict them because you're not allowed to, and the courts are closed anyway. So it's a good time to practice humanitarianism and reach out to your tenants. They know they need to pay, but they're probably going to be slow to. And this is a time for people that are living on the edge. Don't give your dollars away. We talked about this last week that, for the people that are hand to mouth, hunkering down is not an option, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the longer that you can sustain, the more likely that you'll be able to come out on the other side and smell good.
Mm-hmm.
And this too will pass.
From our text line, 478-8298. Mike, is there I know you can't tell people to buy specific stocks or anything like that, so we're...
Yeah.
Is there a good time to buy, is this a good time to buy airline and cruise line stock? And if the government borrows now at low rates, what happens when the rates go back up? Well, we saw Obama borrow at no rates, and the rates went back up, and the market went to almost 29,000. So,
well, great question in here, and there's two in there, and the second one relates to inflation, which Shane and I wanted to get to. So I'll go with the first one. Hot picks right now. Yes, I would say wait until the death numbers. Wait until the world's about to end.
Yeah,
and then if you can go and take your hard-earned money and put it in the market, then good for you, because you really are. You're on chief financial officer, and good on you. Airlines, to some degree, the U.S. government's not going to let an airline go out, a U.S. carrier go out of business.
Cruise ships, not so much, but airlines, absolutely. Got to have them.
Exactly.
Not only for people, but for freight, so.
Right.
Yeah.
And we just picked up on one of the reasons why I don't trade in this market is because you're counting on governments doing things. You're counting on policy. You're counting on things that are absolutely non-economic, non-supply and demand, non-free market enterprise, impossible to predict. That's not investing, that's gambling. But it's probably a pretty good bet.
Yeah.
The second one is what if, can we pay this back? And in this, I view it as two things. One is U.S. has a credit card that we use, and its value and its credit line are determined by the world. They're determined by U.S. consumers, big entities, sovereign banks, other countries, sovereign funds that decide if they want to buy our debt or not. And so far they have. And Tom, you and I have been talking about this for 10 years or more, all the way through the last recession. We may be short, but we're the tallest one in the room, not to use another term. But inflation would pinch us. If it was that we borrowed now and then later when we're looking at things, we have to pay more back than we thought, or that is a moving amount. Of course, for anybody, that's a strain on their pocketbook. So far, inflation, I gave you that number for the long-term treasuries being up 35%-ish in 1 year. That's been the winner in the stock market, if you ask me. It's liquid, it's stable. Mm-hmm. It does move around a lot. Let me interject here. Anything that goes up by that much can go down by that much.
That's true. Yeah.
So when you're looking at, playing ZM for Zoom, and no, it's not ZOOM as the ticker. That's a different company. Yeah. There's a good story about that. It's the ZM. No, that or gold or whatever. It can move just as fast to the downside. But inflation-protected treasuries are a hybrid of what I just mentioned, the long-term treasury. And the idea is that the coupon is going to be referenced to a current rate of inflation. And in theory, that's the most safest investment out there because you've got the U.S. government backing it, the biggest guarantor of the world, and it's protected from inflation. The only time risk that you would have, you're up 5% in inflation-protected treasuries. Yeah. And they're not signaling, if you look at the curve, they're not signaling imminent inflation. If you look at oil, we've got deflation. If you look at people sitting at home with decreasing consumption, there's no signs in my mind of inflation now, but it is always going to be on the list of the big concerns. The big concerns are our credit limit gets cut by the world.
Hold those big concerns because we're at the bottom of the hour. We'll do the big concerns when we come back. All right?
All right.
All right.
Thanks for the question. We'll be here.
All right. Hang on. All right, we've got to take a short break here. We got Montana News, Fox News, and Brady Brewster with the weather and some other things. Mike McCormick on the line for McCormick Financial Advisors, and we'll be back with more with Mike and Shane and myself right after this. Stay tuned. 24 minutes before the top of the hour, Mike McCormick, McCormick Financial Advisors on the line. Shaman Taubman, half man, half amazing in Vancouver. Tom Eagle, your morning mayor. From our text line, hey, Tom, your guest Mike mentioned that certain sectors should rebound and present good opportunities for investors. Could you mention a few sectors that his statement applies to, and what are the best websites to research sector performance on my own?
Gosh, thank you. Any financial site will allow you to chop the market up into sectors. And it used to be that Morningstar wanted us to chop them into large companies with growth and small companies with dividends and mid-cap and this thing. And really, we've grown away from that and looking at more in terms of the 7 or 8 economic sectors in our business. One of the best ways to go is to shop the ways that you would play these sectors or invest in these sectors is probably using an exchange-traded fund. And the companies that make them, the 2 biggest ones are Vanguard and BlackRock or iShares. And you can go to either one of their websites, whichever flavor you choose, and go through, and they'll clearly line up a sector for communication services, for consumer staples, for energy, technology, and you can click on them and compare them on a chart and see how they behave. And what you're going to find is probably intuitive, is that the consumer staples, the toilet paper, is going to move the least and look pretty good right now. The technology is going to move the most and look a little bit scary, along with there is another small company index you can put up there. I think when you're looking at rebounds on something like this, you don't get too clever on it because there's still so much unknown. And what I said earlier is true, is you don't know who's going to get bailed out. It might be that the oil and gas industry gets bailed out. And so I would caution you to stay away from them. We just saw Whiting go bankrupt just the other day, and there's going to be more of that happening, bankruptcies in oil and gas. Shane and I have been talking about that one. But there's other areas of our economy that are really well capitalized, and I do think that banking might be an area, if you're in the right area, where they came in super well capitalized. They are taken to the woodshed. They are on the front lines of this, and they may be forced to forgive some loans. There's just not a hurry. It's not until we reach maximum fear And honestly, I think that for most people, the easiest thing to do is going to be to buy the SPY, the S&P 500, and not get too clever, because it's going to be a hard emotional decision as it is. Just go and put your poker chip in there and know that you're really looking to make a 20% gain. You might make a double, but if you're only looking to make a 20% gain, put that in the context, because you're taking a lot of risk.
Yeah.
I do think that real estate in this area is still a great investment. And so for most people to call me up and say, hey, I want to make a quick move, I say, well, how's your business doing? What do you own for real estate? Where do you want to live when you retire? Let's be careful not to just take a piece of money that you think you can risk on gambling, but you might rather have later for doing something more important. I think is good advice.
Mike, the questions are just pouring in for you this morning. I plan on putting my house on the market in May. Has Mr. McCormick heard anything about the housing market and how it's going with the virus out there? What do you think about putting your house on the market in May?
I think that you should plan on going forward with that, and you should plan on pricing it high. There could be a strong demand for people to move to Bozeman, because you don't want to live in New York City right now.
That's for sure. That's what I was going to say. Even with the number of cases we have here leading the state, it's still pretty good. Still a pretty good chance you're not going to get it here.
Right, and our local inventory is really, really small. So for now, I'd say go ahead according to plan. Don't let a realtor talk you down on price. I got a friend that is going through it right now, and yes, they can't. He's got a contract for full price, but the inspector can't get in there, so it's a bit on hold. It's a bit wonky.
Okay. All right, we got to take another break. Let me read another question to you, Mike. You can ponder while we're out. Good morning, distinguished gentlemen. Since the market will have gone through a forced correction by the time COVID-19 is well behind us, won't the aftermath create an unprecedented optimal investor climate? If so, wouldn't now be a great time for market research so we can be prepared to invest when the market begins to grow again? Also, do we now have to July to file our taxes, or is it April 15th to file or to pay? Which is it? Well, you have to file by the 15th, but you do have till July 15th to pay, I believe, is the... We'll be back right after this. Stay tuned. 16 minutes before the top of the hour, Mike McCormick on the line, Shane Matobin on the line. We got a caller on the line as well, Shane and Mike. Let's go to the phones. 522-TALK is the number. Caller, you on the air with Mike McCormick. What's up?
Well, since speaking of banks, since I've never owned a TV, I've been watching these banks for many years for my kicks. And one of the classic examples is Wells Fargo in 2011, 2015. They issued among their 40 million customers 565,000 credit cards to get a little...
Daniel, we covered this, and they were fined for that after investigation. So what's your question?
All right, with all this strange things going in banks, don't you guys have some concerns about investing in banks?
Wait. Green things going into banks? What do you mean green things?
I'm saying all the strange habits of
strange
banks.
things,
Why would you support them?
All right. Well, we'll ask the question. What do you think, Mike? Bank safe, not safe? Shane rightly pointed out Wells Fargo was fined a hefty amount of money because they imposed goals on their people working in the banks that they couldn't do, so they faked them.
Understood. And I would be clear that nothing is safe right now except for cash, and that's what you're seeing happening in terms of behavior. Right now, these are risky times. These are icy roads, and I'm not promoting that anybody risk their money right now on the stock market. I think that even if you make the gains, you're going to endure some more moments of concern, and there is nothing that makes you feel better during these times than having cash in the bank and low bills coming in and a job that you feel secure in. Now, I do think that right now the U.S. is in a great economic spot to combat this as compared with the rest of the world, and banks are one of the main tools to interface between government and consumers. They've spent 10 years boosting their deposits to doomsday proportions, and hopefully they'll be allowed to participate on the recovery. There's obviously problems in there, but we are looking at unforeseen futures. We're looking at dividends perhaps being cut. Banks are relatively in a good spot for providing a recovery and gains to people without having to go into picking individual companies. As a blanket statement, somebody asked me where a sector is that I thought was oversold with room to grow reliably. Any economic recovery is going to allow banks to participate. So
yeah, and I just add to what Mike's saying about banks. I would like Secretary Mnuchin be on the phone to all the banks. As Mike will tell you and told you, in 2009 it was the banks that backstopped the market when it was at 6,900 in March of 2009. And I think that Mnuchin, your Secretary of Treasury, should be on the phone to your major banks and say, you're not the backstop. You're not the backstop. Do not be going into the market. Let the Americans, and the backstop's going to be the Federal Reserve. You boys had your run in 08, 09. Do not do that again.
Yeah. Hey, this is off topic, but I know we're having a break coming up, and I just wanted to get one little tip that I have for people out there that are cooped up out there. We got some bird feeders, and I got to tell you, I'm not a gardener. That didn't work for me. But bird feeders, you just put the things out, and the birds show up, and you got bird TV going on. I know it's a small little blip, but if you're worried about somebody being alone out there with nothing going on, you can get them a little, simple bird identification book and put a bunch of feeders out there that, you don't even need to go in their house. You can just stash them out there. The local Wild Birds Unlimited shop is open, I believe. Well, I guess, I don't know. You got to call them. Yeah. Probably make an appointment or something. So there you go. There's my hot tip.
Okay.
It is a hot tip because when this is over, especially older people, it'll get them outside to become bird watchers when the weather's nice.
I hope so. Hope we all get through this. All right, we do have to take a short break. We'll be back. We're chatting with Mike McCormick, Shane Matavin, half man, half amazing in Vancouver, British Columbia, Tommy Gloff, your morning mayor here in Bozeman. This is the KMMS Morning Soapbox, brought to you by the Club Tavern and Grill and the special tomorrow fish and chips. And by all means, they are great fish and chips. You can order those up till 8 o'clock tonight for pickup tomorrow between 4 and 8. So get your order in. You can give them a call at 556-6212. You can go to their website, theclubtavernandgrill.com, theclubtavernandgrill.com, and order there. You can order by email from their website or Facebook or any way you can get your order down there. The easy way, 556-6212, or online at theclubtavernandgrill.com. Also, I want to remind you that bestofbozeman.com, we are in the running for the Bozone Best Morning Radio Show, or Best Radio Show, period. And we are. So we need your vote. bestofbozeman.com. Go over to bestofbozeman.com and vote for the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. And we really want to beat those XL Country guys. So we need all our family members to get over there and get a vote in. We've got till April 30th to get this done. So let's show the XL Country folks what a real family is. We'll be back right after this. It's not another Manic Monday. Mike McCormick joins us. I misread that one.
Well, it's Mighty Mac Thursday, so we're covered.
Yeah, it's a Manic Thursday. Quick correction on something I put up earlier. The deadline to file both for filing and for paying is July 15th. If you're paying quarterly, the quarterly is extended from April 15th to July 15th. The second quarter is June 15th. No change there. Quarter three is 15th of September, no change. And the quarter four is January 15th, no change there. So you can take that accordingly. So that's from the IRS website. So I apologize for, but if you want to file by the 15th, by all means, get it done. All right.
Mighty Mike has some terrific personal news.
Go for it.
Well, I guess first of all, Tom, you mentioned, today is not Monday, but boy, it's okay to recognize that time is a bit mushy right now, right? With a home office, with a news flow that seems just the emotional ride and the stress. Everybody should allow themselves some slip-ups. But, personally, my wife had a coworker that was the first hospitalized case of COVID in Bozeman, and she, was mid-50s, moderate health, and needed hospital care and made a full recovery, but wrote an interesting little missive on Facebook that I read through, and it sounded pretty terrible. It sounded bad. In contrast, her husband and 2 children also were infected and were asymptomatic, just coasted right through it. So the uncertainties are not over. The concern and the fear is not over. And so hopefully everybody's got a good network system. I'm just looking out the window at some of these houses that I know have seniors in them, and gosh, I'm struggling with, like everybody else, is what can I do? And I don't have specialized healthcare skills. I don't have a stash of ventilators. So I'm sort of in the regulated group of I can just get out of the way and continue to buy locally. I talked to my local ski shop, and they're going to meet me and fix a part and maybe sell me some boots. And the local bookshop, I referred a friend there. They mailed a book. Local running shop dropped off shoes. Of course, all the restaurants are working. We were laughing. It's revenge of the cooks. The cooks all have jobs, and the front staff don't. And I used to be a front staff, so I can laugh about it.
Don't forget those dishwashers.
That's right. Yeah.
Dishwashers are the heroes. I guess. And they now that everything's paper and plastic, they've got a much lighter duty. But let's get together as a community and as a radio show. And if you've got financial concerns, your CPAs are still working hard, and they still really are the first line. Fraud is everywhere right now. Mm-hmm. That's really all I have.
Hey, Mike, we have a real important question. How are you doing with your small business owners? Are you helping them out, getting ready to file and be able to get these loans that can be grants? Anything you can say about
question. That? I've certainly had all my small business owners have requested their financials from me, and we've gotten them in, and they're in line. But here's how I advise that one, Shane, and it's a hard pill, but it's not the business owner's responsibility to take liability for their workers in this market. So hopefully they all feel desperately bad for them. But in terms of how things work, should the business owner carry their liability and carry their staff and count on being fully refunded by the U.S. government, or should they lay them off and let unemployment work? Boy, for small business owners, it's a really tough pill to say that we're going to carry their employees.
It really is. Yeah.
And so I advise as a fiduciary for my client, for the individual, and my individual advice is always shed the liability. Unemployment works. It's there. You can hire them back when things get better. And that sadly is what we're seeing in the 6 million number today. It's temporary. It's ephemeral. I cannot wait until I'm allowed to go to the concert and go to the bar and the restaurant and pay for all my friends to be together. And gosh, hopefully I'll be allowed to give them a big hug too.
And here's another question real quick, because we're running out of time. As an individual working for yourself in a company with probably the only employer, what have you found in investigating about you being able to get some benefits as a self-employed person?
Oh, nothing. I mean, I'm a free market enterprise person, and I went through 2008 like all of us with a big toe kicked into my teeth. So I've structured my personal financial life for managing times like this. Not to say that was right or wrong or whatever, but boy, when you get to be in my business, you recognize that it's about being comfortable with where your money is, and that comes in all different different flavors, and so helping people find that right flavor for them is still in value. I didn't move here to work all the time, and I didn't move here to get rich. So thanks for this. Thanks for the answer.
Yeah. Just to let you know, we've posted on our website the KMMS. I don't know what you're telling me, Shane, because Shane.
Well, there was a phone call that went to the.
Yeah, Jeff's still on the line. Or
I know he is, but somebody else hung up on us. So
yeah,
Jeff
I know. I hung him up.
Okay. That's what you said. Thank you. That's what the thumbs up is.
I know, but you kept going like this. Sorry. Yeah, I got the message and hung up on him. The other thing I want to point out, KMMSAM.com or our app chat line, AM 1450 KMMS, we posted a fact sheet on who qualifies and who doesn't for this, the payroll protection plan. So if you want to go over there, we've got a fact sheet on who's eligible, who's not, how much you get, and how to apply. So, Mike, thanks for being here, man.
Mighty Mike.
Hey, real pleasure to be there. The sun will shine again. And to finish up that question about my small business owner clients, they are all strategizing how they will be recovering stronger than ever.
Yeah.
This is going to pass. Hopefully you have home ownership and stock portfolios. Hang on to both of those. In a few years, they're going to be worth more than they ever once were.
Gotta go.
Mike, Mighty Mike.
Thanks, man. We'll be right back.